There we go. So many times in our life, things happen, and when they happen, they get us stuck. They keep us stuck because we hold on to those emotions, whether it's anger, hostilities, even in a phase of maybe into la la land. There's so many different things, but what it does is stops us from moving forward in our life. It stops us in creating what we need to create so we can have what we want to have. So today we're going to get unstuck. Welcome to Let's Get Real. We're about helping you transition yourself by showing you the way it can be, by teaching you some of the strategies. And today we have a very special show for you. So for those who don't know me, my name is Glenda Kroll, and I'm welcome you to a day of Let's Get Real and to release those things that are holding you back. And today I want to introduce you to my side partner here, who is...
Hi, everybody. I'm Nicole Harvick. I am Glenda's sidekick. I am Glenda's pal. I am Glenda's friend. But we're here today and we're really excited because we had this guest on, I'm going to say a few weeks ago, and we were both so impressed that we asked her back. And I think, Glenda, if I'm not mistaken, this is the first guest we've asked back. Not that all of them aren't amazing, but Sandra offered to teach us about release. And I think you and I can both agree that release is one of the most important things we can do for ourselves.
So we have had guests before coming back, but not in such a tight time schedule. This is only a couple weeks ago, but, as you and I are both mentors, coaches, and as you are an energy healer, the one thing that we both totally recognize is the fact that when we hold on to things, we can keep ourselves stuck in a place, and it's very hard to move forward because we block our own energies. And when we sit there and we hold on to things like we're saying, if you're holding on to what happened to you a year ago or how your ex might have done you in, and you want to hold, or your parents have done this and it's still 30 years and you're still talking about it, you got some problems there that you're holding on, and you're not going to get moving forward in life. So
Absolutely. And both of us going through divorces, we know exactly what's that, what that is like. We recognize it right away. And had it not been for us recognizing it, we could still be stuck. And we don't want that for anybody. So I'm going to introduce our guest today, and she is a mindset mastery and leadership coach. She's a global trainer and business performance coach. She is a motivational coach at Dale Carnegie Institute, and we are welcoming back Sandra Sines today. Welcome, Sandra.
Hi,
hello,
guys.
hi,
That
we're
is so
thrilled to
great. Thank you for inviting me back. It was so awesome last time. We were talking about moving forward, right? And how these we're coded, right? We have these belief systems. It's not just behavioral things, but also physical things that can keep us stuck. And I think that's when I said, well, I have a whole release program. We can talk about that. And then that just domino effect into today, which is so awesome, because for me, April is such a good month, right? It's during the season where it's, releasing a lot of things and rebirth, Easter, and then I'll start a series in May, which is in 2 weeks. And May is the 5th month. And if you're into numerology, 5 is the number of change. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was really interesting. I thought, okay, well, we'll do it in May, right? And do a mini series to give people a taste of some things that may be holding us back, slowing us down, that we may not even realize. There's a lot of things on many different levels. Some are physical stuff, right? Some are energetic, and some are mental and emotional, and many have been going on for a long, long time. So this is
Absolutely.
one of my favorite topics, because of all the different things that I've gone through in my life. I kept this release, how to let go and
Yeah.
release, is for everybody. It applies to everyone, not just the corporate people that I do lectures for, not just for business women like us, right? For housewives, for men in business. Many of them are like, oh, I hadn't thought of that, because we're coded to keep doing so many things. We're never really taught that letting go is the first step to make room for the new juicy stuff to come in. You don't
Right.
make
And,
room.
and we that's the most important thing. So we all need to realize that we all are holding something in us that we need to let go of. And I see so many people doing that, and that's why this is so important. So if you want to be, it's life is about really about stepping back and being honest about yourself, being honest about who you are, where you are, and we're all in the place that we need to be right now. So if you I want you to step back for a moment and accept that for what it is. And don't blame yourself for your life not becoming more of what it should be and all the rest of it. Get rid of that garbage. Right?
Yeah.
Because we tend to sit back and and live in the worlds of I should have's, and we got to stop I should have's. Get rid of that and just realize where you are, and because we might be going a little bit on that hamster wheel of living, still talking about what your life was like a year ago, 2 years ago, how your parents might have done something that didn't work for you. And when we do those things, you're if at this point in time, we're all adults, we're all human beings, we all have made mistakes. That's part of the growing in life. But let's now get rid of what we have been living with and repeating and constantly talking about it in our own self-talk. And now let's move forward and
Right.
get to where we need to go, because we can get rid of the stuff that it's about, throwing out the garbage. Because when you get rid of the garbage, and even if this is cleaning out your own house, which makes things, actually opens up for other things, and people don't realize that, like, the garbage is in so many areas of life, and then we
Yes.
can set forth on a new journey.
That's right. There's five key steps to releasing, right? That I talk about, and the very first one is what you just mentioned, which is review. Review what's working, what's not working, because all stress really comes from our mind, or our thoughts, our actions being focused on the future or the past. If we're right now in the present, we don't have any stress, because that's the only thing that's real. That's the only thing that's real. The rest is no longer real. Like this second right there, that's the only thing that's real right now. And it's so interesting, because when we focus on that, we can move forward faster. Um, I say that everybody has PTSD on some level, this post trauma, because we've all experienced different things in our lives. It doesn't mean that you were, in a bomb shelter, that you don't have to have gone through a war to have PTSD. You could have been told something by a teacher when you were 8 years old, right? That is still recording in your neurotransmitters in your brain. You could have been told something by one of your parents, or a sibling, or a friend, that is still going on. So it's so important to uncover those and then release them, and things change immediately, because these are, our cells all have memory, and so those stay stuck there. And it's just like uh, traveling. Now when I travel way lighter. I used to carry all kinds of stuff when I was in my 20s and 30s, I had, those garment bags, those big garment bags that you fold and then
Yeah.
you put on your shoulder. I used to carry one of those. I used to carry a briefcase. And then I had, I even had, believe it or not, I had a printer that was a portable printer. This was in the 90s. And I always wore high heels. So I have released all of that.
Yeah.
The last time I went to Spain's one of my favorite countries. I love Barcelona. That's my favorite city in the world, besides San Diego, where I live. And I went for 2 weeks. I went to Barcelona and to Madrid, and I took a wheelie carry-on, the ones with the wheels, a European size, which is smaller than the American size, and a backpack. That's all I took. And I put my purse even in the backpack. And I went for 2 weeks. And it was such a great thing to experience. Like if you've never done that, or just go with one bag, for 1 week somewhere. And it was great. I didn't miss anything. I could move faster. I didn't have to wait in line, right? I could pack my things in the airplane way easier.
Yeah.
I took several trains. You know how you have that bullet train? And I just had my backpack and my wheelie. I didn't even have an extra purse. So it helped me move faster. I felt more free. And so this is all symbolic, right? Of what are we carrying with us? So every time somebody says, well, when this and this happened, when I was, it's important to come back and get in alignment. One of the biggest things that I released earlier, and I was thinking about our talk today, and I thought, okay, well, what's the most significant thing I've released that made the biggest impact, like that made the biggest kind of shift? And it was releasing, when I was 32, releasing the safety and security of living in my own country and my family. Because I moved to Europe by myself. And that was a big deal, right? To release that safety. All human beings want acceptance and safety, no matter what country. I've been to 32 countries. They all say they're different. We all need the same thing, right? We all need love and acceptance. And that was a huge release for me. Not an easy one. I don't think everybody needs to do that to learn release, but evidently I needed to do it that way. And it made me realize a lot of things. People ask, what did you learn the most? And the first year was very difficult, but I learned that there was a lot of things I didn't need. Like I didn't have a TV for a year. I didn't have a car. So I took the train, the bus, whatever. And I learned that I was much stronger than I realized that I was. So whenever that happens and you don't have all these distractions, let's say, and distractions can be other people's opinions, other people's fears. They put their fears on you. That happened when I said I was moving. Oh, how would you do that? What are you going to eat? Questions like this. And you realize, wait a minute, I didn't need all that stuff anyway. I didn't have a washing machine for like 2 years. Can you imagine? Like, think about, as an American, can I live without a washing machine? And I did, and I was fine. I was like absolutely fine. I had a much more limited amount of clothing.
Yeah.
And so I saved a lot of time making decisions, what to wear, all that kind of stuff. So I could really be more in the present. So release is one of my favorite topics because like I said, it applies to everyone, and it'll help you to move forward faster, easier, and it makes room to allow more new ideas, new juicy experiences to come in. Release is also very, in my experience, very related to humility, because in order to let something go, like a big job, done that too, you have to be humble, right? And say, okay, I don't know. I don't know what's next. I don't know if this is the right thing, but I put myself in surrender and the universe will guide me,
So
humility and trust.
I understand that, but I also believe that the other word that comes into play there is having faith.
Yes,
Yes, I've left jobs, I've left careers, I've left relationships, and going from having everything to having nothing was a lot of faith of believing that everything will come back for me. It will be the right thing will come into my life, and I will be able to restart and find and do that. So for me, it's the word is having faith, knowing that everything always works out.
that's right. And let's talk about that, because faith and trust is really important in anything we do, but especially release, right? So
Yeah, yeah,
you're having faith in yourself, you're having faith in the world, the universe, your source, whatever you want to call it, and faith in the process. If you have faith in those three things, it becomes much easier. And every single time, not 9 out of 10,
no,
10 out of
no.
10, all the time, it works out so that it's working out for you, not to you. It's very interesting. I've done that, the leaving and, living in Europe, and then I was working in the advertising business, making very good money, traveling a lot, whatever. And I had a shift. I had an energetic shift after going to an ashram for 2 weeks and doing meditation and all this stuff. And then I went back to the advertising world, which is really quick, and this pitch and that pitch, and we want this 30-second spot, and it's cost 1.5 million, and the girl's teeth aren't white enough for this chocolate bar bite, like fast paced stuff like. And I was like different because I had released that old Sandra. And so I'll never forget it. You guys, you're making me remember this because I forgot. I was in like a studio, and we were filming. We were actually doing lip casting.
Wow.
It was for a chocolate bar because Kraft was my big client. So we
Hmm.
were casting girls, how good their teeth and their lips looked for when they bit the chocolate. And I was thinking, this is what I'm doing with my life. I should be doing, right? Even though it paid well and I loved it, it was creative, working with creative people, and how is the chocolate swirl going to look? All that was really cool. And that's when I realized, I thought, well, so it's always important. Number one step, review where you are, what's working for me towards where I want to go. Is it contributing? And what's not working? And a lot of people, because we've been coded like this, we've been coded to always take action, have an action list, have a plan, have a strategic vision, right? When really, and it doesn't mean I don't have a plan, doesn't mean I'm against planning, but it's very important to do it with intention and with tuning into, am I happy? How does this making me feel? If it's making you feel stressed or anxious or whatever, nervous, frustrated,
Right.
that's
So be aware. Again, the big word I always say is aware. Aware of how
yeah,
you're feeling. What is your heart? What is your head? What is your body telling you?
yes,
When we become aware. Okay, so now we've reviewed it. We figured out what's working for us, and we
yes.
now know in our heart what isn't working for us. Then what's the next step?
What's
And I
next?
have a quick question
Go
here,
ahead.
Sandra. You keep using the word coded. So are you
Yes,
saying it's coded in our DNA, or are we conditioned?
both.
Or
I think
both?
it's both. I think
Okay.
it's both. I think it's both because it's part of our DNA, meaning it physicality, right? But in our belief systems too, there's belief coding systems. I used to have an assessment that I did with BMW, and it's just like a 2-page thing, scientifically done, designed by them. This is for a training called Leading Leaders. It was the second tier. There's leading
Mhm.
leadership, leading others, and then there was leading leaders, which is a whole different skill set, right? And one of their assessments was this blueprint patterns, what we've been coded with. And so after answering some questions and things, it comes up. There was 4 or 5, I think, different patterns that are typical for most people. I can think of some right off the top of my head. One is always be number one, always be the best. That was a pattern coded in us. Do you always have to be the number one? No. No.
But parents and teachers or family members or somebody put that idea into your head and your heart.
For a long time,
Right.
right?
So
And
people
we
carry
believe
this in
it.
their lives. Right.
Right. Studies show that at the ages of 3 and 4, a lot of these neural patterns are formed. And so then they're just reinforced. So being number one, being, the best was one of them. Um, Always, it was something like be in a hurry, rush
Yeah.
was one of them that came out with people. So that implies, you know how people don't like to wait. I was just writing my chapter in my book, and I wrote this in there. What is the reason why people don't like to wait? And the reason, psychological reason, is because we feel, maybe some of us, right, that when we're waiting, it's not really living. It's in between the actions that are really matter. This matters, this matters. This
The
as you're
waste,
waiting.
the waste of time.
Waste of
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's totally, that's a myth. That's a
Well,
myth, because when we ask inner guidance, we wait, we receive it. If you don't wait and you're always in action, 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 then you may not have time to get aligned. So I always say alignment before action. But most of us don't do that because we were not coded that way. We were,
So
those are belief systems.
Eckhart totally talks in his book of The Power of Now.
Yeah.
And when you listen to or read his book of The Power of Now, he talks about that, about waiting in line and how much would it, if you can actually get to that now moment and just sit there and appreciate the moment that you're sitting in. So
Yeah.
instead of looking at it as most of us look at it as it's a waste of time. It's a waste of time that I'm sitting in line. I'm waste of time that I'm driving and I'm stuck in traffic. You know, everybody, it's a negative thing. But if we can step back and look at ourselves and figure out that moment in time where maybe we can take that breath,
That's right.
right? Take that breath, take that moment to realize that how grateful that you can be for where you stand at the moment.
Yeah.
Right. So instead of looking at, and everything is how we perceive things in life as we move forward anyways.
That's right. I mean, for a long time, I was like that. Only until recently, right? Did I think I have to be using every second efficiently? Like I'm wasting time. Oh my gosh, I'm going to a movie at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I can't do that. I should be working. Where did I get those belief systems? So that's a lot of review is the first one, right? And the second one is recognize where you are right now and that it's okay. What you were saying, Glenda, being really mindful and present. And I'll talk a little bit about relationships now because it's very relevant with step 2, recognizing everybody has a role. And some people get the roles that are maybe not so popular and fun. And so we need to just recognize that. It doesn't mean love that. It doesn't mean you need to forget it, but it does mean just to recognize. That's more neutral. Does that make sense? And recognize in ourselves to be gentle and say, okay, well, I did what I knew at that time. But I know more today, April 17th, 2024, than I did April 16th, 2024. I know more now. We all do. So that gives you a more empowering and mindful mindset to move forward, right? Which brings you to step 3, which is get clear. Get clear on what it is you really want and get clear on what it is that is holding you back, right? A lot of times in workshops and trainings, we make lists of things we want to do as we move forward. Very rarely do people make lists of things we want to stop doing. That's a very important question to ask ourselves. What do I want to stop doing? Because it's not serving me anymore.
Right.
I'm
And then,
downtown San Diego. I don't wear high heels anymore. Simple stuff.
yeah,
But I'm
no,
like,
and it can be things that are like getting clear on bad habits,
yes.
because We all have bad habits, things that we do, whether it's wasting our time, because we sit on our phone and we spend too much time, and we're not productive. And productive doesn't need to mean it's that you have to be doing something all the time.
Right.
Sometimes we become too busy. We're busy all the time. And
Yes.
sometimes what we need to actually do is to actually sit back and do nothing.
Yes.
Have that time. I remember as a young woman when I started out my life with when I had my baby, and when there was times, I was always busy. I was a stay-at-home mom, and I juggled a million things of doing. I didn't have help, and I did cleaning and cooking and all the rest, and exercising and all the rest, and I felt guilty if I were to
Ooh,
sit down and put my feet up. I didn't know that I was able to do that. I thought I should always have to keep going.
I know, because and that's part of it. That's part of it, that of this conditioning, what we were talking about, Nicole. And I think being a mother, I'm not a mother, but I'm the oldest of four. Um, it teaches you time management. It teaches you how to
Yeah,
be very efficient with your time, right?
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
But that's good. And on there's always two sides, and the other side is that it also teaches us that we have to use every second. We have to be in action, and we don't, right? And it took me a long time to learn that. I still catch myself. Yeah, it's okay. Just, it can wait 30 minutes, or it can wait till next Friday, or
yeah,
whatever,
yeah, yeah,
even just because it's on my calendar. So we do need to let some of those things go that are no longer serving you. Maybe they served you when you were 21 and university, whatever. And
right.
that's where things really get ingrained when we want to accomplish something. That's important to recognize. That's right. Step number 2, and step 3 is get clear. And then step 4 is what we're talking about, which a lot of people skip this step, and it is to create quiet time. Like, create it. Make sure. I don't care if you have to write it in your calendar, but make
Right.
sure and I mean quiet, right? It could be anywhere you want, but we need that time to settle down. And I know, Nicole, you're really good. You're better at it, and get into alignment, because if we don't do step 4, the messages, your inner guidance, right? It just takes longer to get to you, if it ever does.
It does, right?
We
I
ask
always
questions,
tell
but we don't
people,
listen.
I tell people silence is a superpower. To sit in
Yeah,
your silence is a superpower, because
yeah,
not many people can do it because of the conditioning of you must always be busy. But you will
yeah,
never hear what is outside of you trying to come in unless you can quiet your mind, your body, and just let it come through you.
yeah. Release the need to have to know everything. You said silence is your superpower. I love that. In negotiation training, we use the term the power of silence.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're asking a question, right, whether it's sales or in a legal matter, whatever, the more you're silent when you ask a question or make a comment, the more information comes in. Guess what? For both parties,
Mm-hmm.
not just one.
Yeah.
Super interesting.
And in
It's,
real estate, I always tell my dad, never make the first offer in anything. Never, never, never. Just be quiet. Never make the first offer.
It's so hard for people. It's so hard for us because we've been conditioned. Be the first one. Raise your hand. Do this. Do that. Right? When I did that, it's a very simple little assessment, and I'll do it in the 3-day series. But what comes out, people are like, "Yeah, that's totally me. I'm always in a rush." Or, "Yeah, that's totally me. I've got to be first." People that pass people when they're driving, right, in the lanes, they cannot be behind a car.
yeah.
That's conditioning, you guys.
So the other thing, let's put it out there that, your quiet time allows you to hear what is going on, but it also helps your internal system.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So the one thing that people don't realize is when you're constantly going, you start to create something internally within yourself. people suffer from a lot of health situations because of the never stopping, the never breathing, the stress, and it just builds up the stress in your own body. So
Yeah.
if you allow this time, it allows your body itself to just come back to being where it needs to be. Like, people who also have anxiety problems and, have, these type of things, it's really important, like I say, stop and breathe.
Yeah. Well, that alone, that's why release and releasing the breath, for example, right? Like when we do deep breathing, deep, slow breathing, it changes. There's all kinds of studies that show how connected the breath and the rhythm of the breath and the length of the breath is to your emotional state and to your nervous system. That course I was telling you guys about that I went when I was in advertising and then I came back, I was different. It was a course on that.
Mhm.
It was a course on Sudarshan Kriya, which is a rhythmic breathing technique where you're through the breath, you can actually release past traumas and physical ailments that are within your body, right? It changed my sleeping patterns. It changed a lot of, it even changed the way I spoke, and obviously the way I thought, because I went back and I a year and then I left. I wasn't the same. So I had to release. That's the second thing. The first thing I released that was the most difficult, or big, let's just say biggest, but yeah, it was the most difficult. Leaving my country, living alone, that was really hard. It was an adventure, but once I got there, I was like, what have I done? Right. But the second one is more emotional and mental, and it's very important to talk about, and that is I had to release the old dream, whatever that dream was, right? Being married, living in the States, having a beautiful house, all that stuff I had to release because that wasn't who I was anymore. And that took me a long time. And I think a lot of us hold on to whatever that dream is for very good reasons, right? We hold on to it because it made us excited. It was a motivator, right? It drives you to succeed. But perhaps it's time to look at whatever your dream is, and is that really what your dream is right now? So I had to release that dream, and the moment I did, new ones came. So that's really important. It's like, I go back to shoes, but people who follow my Facebook know I love shoes. So whenever I buy a pair of shoes, I have to release an old one. I can't, it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit. I live in San Diego with a very small closet downtown. So I don't live in my big 4-bedroom anymore in Arizona. So just like life and just like belief systems and habits, when you want to adopt something new, it's important to make room for it and release. And the minute you do that, more goodies will come. Much more goodies will come.
So we will review it, we'll recognize what is serving us and what isn't. We get clear, so we decide is what do you really want?
Yes.
And through your what do you want, there's got to also be a why. Why
Yes.
do you want that? Because that helps you build what you want. Then we create that quiet time that we all need so we could figure out where we're going, because that's when those little notes and conversations come of giving us direction,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yes.
And then where
And
are
then,
we?
and then the last one, which is take the first step. Take the
Take
first step.
action.
And I say take the first step versus get into action. I always used to say get into action because people are always in action, right? So it's just, if you just take one step, it could be a small one. It
Yes.
could be a very small one. It could be going to a different coffee shop that you've been going to. I don't care what it is. It could be sitting in a different chair to have your
Totally.
tea in the morning. It could be having tea instead of coffee, whatever. But just taking one step that releases an old pattern will change everything. It will change everything. It's like amazing. I did that was it last year, maybe last year or 2 years ago, in my bedroom, I reorganized stuff and got rid of a lot of things,
Yeah.
like 50% of what was in there, like just stuff, furniture, clothes, whatever, right? And immediately, like the next week, I was, a couple people reached out that I hadn't heard of for maybe 8 years. Like that's not a coincidence. So releasing, letting go, physical stuff, mental stuff, emotional stuff, energetic, causes such a shift quickly, quickly. Because now we're in a society that wants everything quickly, right? We don't want to wait. Attention span is less than 8 seconds now in the, according to statistics. So when I release stuff physically and emotionally and mentally, and it just makes me go faster and easier. It's just it's like a shortcut.
Well, I look at it as I say it, it's kind of like the flow.
Yeah.
Life doesn't flow when there's too much stuff in the way.
Yes.
So as we can get things done, like in the last week and so, I have been working very hard, very diligently, many late nights or early mornings, getting paperwork done for
Oh,
tax season. And I have to do a lot of different taxes for, I have a lot of responsibilities. So I had lots of paper, and I could see how, as I was reorganizing, sorting, and doing it all, things started already shifting.
right.
And even now that this morning I dropped off my first bundle at my accountant's, and like I now can remove some of my things to have them, put into boxes and away. So it's another release of papers. It's like, spring is here. As I
Yes.
go through clothes, if I don't wear it for a year and a half, it's time to get rid of. And as
Yes.
I do that each year, again, because it's just like the person who hoards is the person that has a life that doesn't really move, because they keep on adding more stuff to the pile. The house gets loaded. So
Yeah.
it's the same.
Yes.
When we load ourselves up, we no longer flow. We are stuck.
And we're slower. We're
Yes.
just slower. So I have to do it quite often. I'm going to be completely transparent. Like once a year for me is not enough. You're much more organized probably, but it's also because I have a small space. So it kind of forces me to get rid of stuff
Mhm.
quickly, because there's just not enough room. But I'm seeing this is very new for me, very new. But I'm seeing that I like it because it's all symbolic, but I live in a smaller place, which is really nice downtown. But I can travel more. I can go out more. It forces me to go out more. Versus, it doesn't mean I don't love having a big house with a pool, which is what I had, but it's a very different energy shift, and that's one of the very important things of release. And Nicole can probably really relate to this from an energy standpoint. What another reason it's so important to release is so that you can catch up with your own development, right? Because we're changing and evolving every second, right? Every day the body creates, I think it was 30 billion new cells every day. So if I don't release to make room for the new, I'm not keeping up. Haven't you met people sometimes? I'm sure, Nicole, you have, where they're, I don't know, I just don't feel like myself. And one of the reasons many times is because they're doing the same things
Over and over and over.
and
Yeah.
they're new because
Mhm.
they've learned, seen new things. What a class I took in Spain one time was all in Spanish. It was a weekend with like 10 women, and it was on letting go of stuff. And one of the things that was like a really difficult assignment for a lot of people was to release, because a lot of women had let go of relationships, whatever, of their jewelry, like their wedding ring, old wedding photographs, letters, cards, like old birthday cards that they'd gotten from their husband, whatever, whatever. And I mean, we resisted. A lot of them were like, oh no, I cannot get rid of this. I love that necklace or whatever it was, right? She said, so how are you making room for the new experience that you want? What message are you giving energetically? And I thought that was really interesting,
That
whether we agree or not, right? But I thought that was really, and I had a lot of old cards and things. So I keep positive ones. I call it my happy file, from going to so many different countries and people writing you when you're the teacher, they write something and whatever, a little poem. I keep those kind of things. It's my happy file, but it's one file. I don't keep a lot of stuff, especially if it didn't end well. It's a sacred contract that is now complete. It is now complete.
Exactly. Exactly.
Does that
And
make
I
sense,
learned
Nicole?
from my mom, when I had to clean out everything of hers, it was very good to reflect, think about it, kind of embed the memory. But when I was going through that and I didn't want it, that dawned on me, my girls aren't going to want my junk either, because they didn't have a part in my life at that point. They wouldn't understand it. They wouldn't know what it meant. It wouldn't resonate with them. They wouldn't know what it meant. So I started getting rid of things because, if you keep the past, you remain in it. If you think too far in the future, you miss the present, you miss the moment. So that was my big epiphany in terms of my mom, is like, my kids are going to see something from 1979 and think, oh, mom was so cool. No. So I'm like, get rid of it.
Because that's not who they are anymore anyway.
Right.
They're creating new.
I remember that girl, some good, some bad, but it no longer pertains to this person.
Yes. And you can, like you said, some good, some bad. You can take, it doesn't mean to forget everything.
Right.
Doesn't mean that. But like you said, it means not living in it. And there's a lot of people who still live in it.
Yeah.
It's not active anymore. It's not active.
Right. It's dormant.
When you're reviewing where you are, which is, and then I want to do a bit of a walkthrough before it gets too late, where we can take people
I have my little cards here.
Okay, so first of all, what I want you to understand, those that are watching, and hopefully you'll be sharing this with other people and I do want to draw attention to one thing somebody has said, but we have to get to a part when we are reviewing that, we have to accept of things that are over.
Yes.
So we have to come to the acceptance, because we can't release if we can't accept. So if you're going through and, even to the fact of, I can't live in my past of when my kids were babies. Those days are over. They were wonderful and I loved them and all the rest of it, but I accept that I can't. I have no longer control because they're adults. So it's learning, or the relationship that was over, or a business that didn't work. We have to learn to accept what has happened and even grow from that, because from whatever happens, we grow from it. We can either knock ourselves down and live in a pity party world. And if you are going to do that, then I'm going to ask you one question. How's that going for you?
Right.
Does it make you feel good?
Yeah, it doesn't. So we got to get to the part that we're going to actually release it, accept it. So, so that we can move forward. So let's go through a section. And first of all, I want to just jump back. We had a note from Allison, who said her heart is full of grief. And when you said that, you made my heart feel bad, because, I understand I don't know what you're going through, Allison, and my heart breaks for you to hear or see something like that. But we all go through grief at a time, and the only thing about grief is that it just takes time. So if you've lost a loved one or going through a hard time, my condolences, and my heart really is full for you. But just knowing that you have to sit back and say, you know, do little things like for when I'm in a low time in life, when life has hit me at a time where it's low. First of all, I'm very aware of conversations that I get into so that they're not heavy conversations. I make sure that I don't get into very heavy into the news. So, and movies and things like that. You've got to really channel yourself of things that bring you up, not things that bring you down.
Yeah, key word that she used is full.
Full, yes.
Full.
That's
So it's very important. What are you taking in? What you
right.
alluded to, right? What people you're taking in,
Yes.
what
Yes.
conversations, what food, what media, what
Yes.
movies are you watching, what news, what books are you reading? It's
Yes.
just like what you're ingesting, right?
It's
Because
all
that's the fuel. That's the fuel.
right.
And so yeah, that's very important to know. And it doesn't have to take another myth, right? Another belief system is that it has to take years to get over things. No, it doesn't, because that whatever it was that created that grief, all of us have gone through these grief times and different phases of grief, right? Of mourning. Can it goes in and out, back and forth, you're in denial, acceptance, anger, whatever. It doesn't have to go on for years and years and years once you recognize it. So one really cool exercise that may help, Allison, is this. You ask yourself, if I were the future Allison you want to be, and it's a really cool technique that I learned that I like to do. If you were the future Allison, what did the future Allison do to get herself out of that grief? And just get yourself in quiet mode, and some answer will come of what she did. And then that's what you do. That's
And
that's
the
a
other
really cool exercise
and
to do.
I love that. And the other thing that I say to you as well is, what do you do that makes you feel good?
Yeah.
Start doing things that make you feel good, and that can be a whole thing. But we won't stay on that because we are tracking time. And but I did want to approach that. So
Yeah, that was good.
let's take people through something that so that they can help themselves move forward and the stepping stones to release.
Yeah, because there's so many different things to release. I've created
But let's just do
one.
one thing to release.
Yes. Why don't I have 41 through 44. Why don't you guys name a number, any of you, and we'll do whatever that topic is. There's release too much action, release blame, release whatever. Or somebody else can write in a number. You tell me, Glenda, if
Yeah, let
somebody puts in a
someone from
number.
the audience pick a number.
Well,
Yeah.
If they're interested.
if there's somebody watching and want to call out a number that resonates with them as they're feeling, we'd be more than happy. But if it doesn't come in the next couple of seconds, we got to move on.
Yeah.
So I don't see anything happening. So Nicole, I'm going to let you do it because my heart sort of says Nicole will fill the number.
22.
22.
Okay.
Release the need for perfection.
Ooh, that's a big
Release
one.
the need for perfection. So let's say it was me or anybody, right? But I'm going to use my name, or we can use anybody's name. So I would do two things. One, I would ask the future Sandra, if I want to release the need for perfection, what is one thing that I can do right now to release that need? For example, and then an answer will come. For example, right now what came to my mind was to release structure, because I have like a routine. You know how we all have these routines? So to one day do something completely out of the routine, completely different. Like I get up, I do my praying time, I do meditation, I drink my tea, I do my walk, right? And then I get to work. What if I do something completely different and, go for a swim at 7 a.m. in the morning or whatever that happens to be? That would release that need. That's one thing. When I do with clients, whether it's in a group or one-on-one, we also do some tapping, different because that
Mhm.
releases it from the body as well. And so we would do that. We would do a sequence of tapping, right, with different points, which are tapping is just they're just energy centers in the body, right, that sometimes have blockages in it. And so when you're saying words, right, I don't need to be perfect because nobody's watching. I mean, it's okay, whatever the words are that's going to come, and it's releasing it from your body. So it's releasing it on many levels, energetically, emotionally, and mentally. So we go through very specific steps in order for it to be released on many levels. And that's the part, step number 3 on getting clear. We make a list of what are some non negotiables in your life? What are things you must have? And what are things you have, but maybe you don't really need them anymore? And that's really, it's a matrix. It's really important to go through something like that. A lot of it is um, being very mindful. The self awareness is the very first step, which is the recognize self awareness. Most people are not so self aware. And that's one of the reasons why podcasts like this and doing things in a group are so powerful, because we may not see something that someone else could see in you. Sometimes they're super positive qualities you have that you may not realize. You know, I told someone once, you are so creative. We were talking about a business thing. You're just so creative. And she said, I'm not creative. Nobody's ever told me I'm creative. And it was real estate. And I said, this real estate deal you're putting together, that you finance it with this. And it was like a little, for me, it was complicated. I said, that's creative. That's a very creative solution. And her whole face just lit up because she said, I never thought I was creative.
Wow.
So she released that thought or that belief, right? That she was a certain way. That's another release. Releasing how we label ourselves, right? So doing a matrix on knowing your non-negotiables and your true north, and then we do some tapping, but getting really quiet is what brings the ideas to come in. Yeah. Because there's release on a lot of different levels, and you don't want to be carrying all that baggage with you your whole life, because you won't make room for the new ones, and it'll slow you down. I know from experience, it was slowing me down. I think we can all relate to that.
So let's do something else as well. Right now, I would like to, uh, everybody who's watching, I want you to stop for a minute, and I want you to take a deep breath in and out. Breathe in for the count of 4. Hold it for the count of 4, and release for the count of 4. Do this another time. Breathe in for the count of 4. Hold for the count of 4, and release for the count of 4. Now I want you to think in yourself, review, what is one thing in your life right now that is working for you? And then I want you to think, what is that one thing that isn't?
What's
Now,
one thing you can stop?
once you find that one thing that isn't, I want you to recognize that one thing and why isn't it working for you? Just think of that one thing. Then I want you to think of getting clear with yourself of how you could maybe shift that one thing that isn't, maybe a habit that maybe that you're not working with, that habit that's pulling you back. Maybe you're eating too fast. Maybe you're not giving yourself that time. Maybe it's time to get a little clear on how you can shift that one thing that could change you. Now again, I want you to breathe in for the count of 4. Hold and breathe out. Now I want you to think, what is one way that you can take action on that one thing, just that one small step that will move you forward? And once you have in mind now that one small step, whether it's time to start writing down of things that you do every day that doesn't work, or things that maybe you're doing too much, then you'll know now what is one small step you can do that you can release. Thank you.
Yes. And when you release it, how would that make you feel?
Yes.
How would that make you feel? Free, at peace, empowered, right?
Strong.
Happy, strong,
Yes.
happy, and once you can tune into that feeling, because it's all, we focus a lot on the mind. My thing is called lifestyle recode. Because it is recoding, it's releasing and then recoding, replacing it, right, with what it is you want, because you're different now. And so we do I don't know if I have it right here, this release invocation of I'm now ready to move forward with ease and freedom. I am now ready to move forward with ease and freedom. I now release on all levels of all bodies. I release on a DNA level. You mentioned DNA, Nicole.
Mm-hmm.
I release on a DNA level. I release on a core soul level throughout all parallels of time. I now release what is no longer serving me. And when you ask yourself what is no longer serving me, and you get in a place of quiet time, what do I need to stop doing? Just ask yourself that question. What do I need to stop doing? And it'll come. And another important question, what do I need to stop doing? And then like Allison, who wrote in, somebody asked me this once, and I thought it was a very powerful thing. What is this really about? I was trying to decide between 2 or 3 projects, and I couldn't decide. It was causing me stress. And he said, what is this really about? It's not really about, are you going to take this training job or this or whatever? What is it really about? And I thought about it for half a day. What is it really about? And it was about, for me at that time, not letting that company down. I didn't want to let anybody down. It wasn't so much that I wanted to do it, but not letting anybody down was stronger than my desire. Once I knew that, I thought, okay, I can release that real quick. So if you ask yourself, what is this really about when you're stressed? That's a very profound question that only you can answer. And these are some of the things that we do in the release program.
Well, I'll tell you something. It was a wonderful time today. I want to thank you, Sandra, for taking us through this entire section. And it's so important to move people's lives forward, to get out of whether you are stuck in a situation where you need to move forward, whether you're thinking in negative ways, where you're dealing with something that keeps spinning around. These are all very important things, and we need to always keep ourselves as light and flow as possible. And for that, I am so grateful for you. Would you like to give us your closing thoughts?
Yes. I want to say, just anybody who wants to reach out either on Facebook, on Messenger, or Dream Team Communications. If you just put Dream Team Communications, that's my website, you can contact me, because I'll be having that 3-day mini series, right? 1 hour per day, where we will physically do some things to release it right then and there in the moment. and that'll be the first, I think it's May 7th, the first Tuesday in May 7th, 8th, and 9th. So if they contact me, I'll give them the information. It's going to be great. To quickly just get a feel for you'll feel lighter, like right away. You feel lighter and things start to shift. I always say clarity is power. That's my tagline. And that's being clear how magnificent you are, being clear where you want to go, and being clear what you can contribute, because everyone can contribute something in this world. And you're moving forward anyway. So you might as well be having fun while you're doing it. So let's release all the stuff you don't need.
And for those who don't know, below this video is in the descriptions of Sandra's website as well. So it's just clicking on the website and you'll be able to reach out to her directly.
Yes. Thank you so much. You guys are doing such an important service in this world. We all need this, We need connection and collaboration.
Absolutely.
Thank
and Nicole, what can I ask you for your remarks for this session today?
I think each and every one of us knows and understands, as we take a glimpse back into our past, we're always changing. Hopefully you are moving forward. But when you look back at who you were as a child, as a teen, as a young adult, as a wife, as a mother, as a career person, each one had just different aspects of who you were and who you are no longer. And you can't carry that forward with you. There's no purpose. We morph into each section of our life and who we become. So to think that you could carry everything with you each time, you would have a lot of suitcases. So, you look back at yourself and be in gratitude for the past that you had. The past, I look back at motherhood. It was an amazing time. Like you said, Glenda, I think you and I always reflect back to our kids, but my kids are grown now. I still have an amazing time with them, but I have to release that. Sometimes it's the control I have to release. I feel like, oh, well, I should tell you this, but that's not my place anymore. So release is just so important in every step of your life. And I personally think it will be just as important with each phase you go through, because I'm morphing and changing all the time. A year from now, I'll be a different person with different ideas. I'm not going to carry what I know now with me if it no longer serves me.
Good job, you guys.
Love it. So I want to thank you all for coming today and watching and getting the idea that, you are where you are at this point in time. Stop judging yourself, stop giving yourself a hard time, and just learn part of that, of acceptance of where you want to be. And we all are looking to grow and contribute and do other things that make us happy. And, so start looking at really what is it in your life that you want to do to build some excitement, some happiness, because, what we don't seem to do enough of is laugh. So, spend some time taking a look, recognizing what works, what is holding you back. And most importantly, then, through these techniques that Sandra has shared with us today, it's time to release and grow. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you guys. Good job. It was awesome.